Wait a second. Before you rush into the next thing on your list, just stop. Not forever, not dramatically, just long enough to notice something important. A lot of the choices you've been making lately haven't really been choices. They've been reactions. And that difference matters more than you think. Because when your decisions come from pressure instead of clarity, they quietly shape a life you didn't actually intend to build. You might feel like you've been taking action, moving forward, doing what needs to be done. But if you look closely, there's a good chance those actions have been fueled by unease, by that tight, restless feeling in your chest that whispers, "You're running out of time." And when that voice gets loud enough, it doesn't guide you, it pushes you. Think about what happens when life starts to feel like it's closing in. Bills stack up. Expectations grow. You compare your timeline to someone else's highlight reel. Suddenly, everything feels urgent. Your body doesn't interpret that as a mild inconvenience. It treats it like a threat. Your system shifts into survival mode. And survival mode isn't designed for thoughtful decisions. It's designed for immediate escape. So what do? You reach for the fastest option. Not the best option. Not the right option. Just the one that's closest. That's how people end up in jobs that drain them but pay just enough to keep them stuck. It's how they stay in relationships that feel comforting on the surface but quietly misaligned underneath. It's how they say yes to opportunities that look promising at first glance but don't actually lead anywhere meaningful. From the outside, it can look like progress, movement, momentum. But internally, it often feels heavy, like you're carrying something that doesn't quite belong to you. The tricky part is that acting quickly feels productive. Doing something, anything, feels better than sitting in uncertainty. Your brain rewards action, even when it's misdirected. So you convince yourself that grabbing the first available option is better than waiting. But is it? Imagine someone in deep water who suddenly realizes they can't swim. Panic sets in instantly. Their heart races, their breathing becomes erratic, and their only instinct is to grab onto whatever is nearby. They don't pause to assess whether what they're reaching for is stable, safe, or even helpful. A floating object, a branch, another person, it doesn't matter. The urgency overrides judgment. And sometimes, what they grab onto doesn't save them. It makes things worse. If they cling to something unstable, it sinks with them. If they latch onto another struggling swimmer, they risk pulling both of them under. The very act meant to save them becomes part of the problem. That's what panic-driven decisions look like in everyday life. They come from a place that's trying to protect you, but without clarity, that protection becomes chaotic. You end up adding complications instead of resolving them. Here is something most people don't realize. The emotional state you're in when you make a decision doesn't just disappear once the decision is made. It becomes part of the experience that follows. In other words, the starting point shapes the entire journey. If you accept a job because you're afraid of not having enough, that fear doesn't magically vanish on your first day. It follows you into the role. It shows up in how you think, how you perform, how you interpret every challenge. If you enter a relationship because you feel alone, that loneliness doesn't dissolve just because someone is there. It lingers, influencing how you connect, what you tolerate, and what you ignore. If you chase an opportunity because you feel behind, that sense of urgency doesn't settle. It keeps pushing you, making it hard to ever feel like you've arrived. So you see the pattern. Decisions made from scarcity tend to create more situations that feel scarce. It's not some abstract concept. It's practical. Your mindset at the beginning affects your expectations, your boundaries, your perception, and your behavior. And all of those shape the outcome. That's why rushing rarely solves the deeper issue. It just changes the scenery. Now, none of this means you should freeze or avoid making decisions altogether. The goal isn't to become passive. It's to become intentional. And one of the simplest ways to shift from reaction to intention is something most people overlook because it sounds almost too basic. Give yourself time. Not weeks. Not endless overthinking. Just a pause. If you can, create a small buffer between the moment something appears in your life and the moment you respond to it. Even a day can make a difference. Why? Because your nervous system needs time to settle. When you're in a heightened emotional state, your thinking narrows. You focus on immediate relief rather than long-term alignment. But when your body calms down, when your breathing slows, when that tightness eases, you regain access to a different level of awareness. You start asking better questions. Instead of, how fast can I fix this? You ask, is this actually right for me? Instead of, what will get me out of this feeling? You ask, what will support the life I'm trying to build? That shift changes everything. Consider a real-life example. Someone receives a job offer unexpectedly. On paper, it solves a lot of immediate concerns: steady income, stability, relief from uncertainty. Their first instinct is to say yes immediately, because it feels like a lifeline. But if they pause, just for a day, they might notice things they initially overlooked. The role might not align with their long-term goals. The work environment might not support their growth. The schedule might conflict with important parts of their life. With a calmer mind, they can weigh those factors instead of being driven purely by urgency. And sometimes after that pause, they still say yes. But it's a different kind of yes. It's informed. It's grounded. It's chosen, not grabbed. Other times, they realize it's not the right fit, and by not rushing, they avoid stepping into something they'd soon want to escape. The same principle applies across different areas of life. In relationships, taking time helps you distinguish between genuine connection and temporary comfort. In finances, it helps you separate smart investments from impulsive decisions. In personal growth, it allows you to pursue paths that resonate deeply instead of chasing what looks impressive on the surface. Patience, in this sense, isn't about delay, it's about clarity. There's also something else worth considering. Not everything that feels urgent actually is. Some opportunities create a sense of pressure on purpose. Act now. Limited time. Don't miss out. These messages are designed to bypass your thoughtful thinking and push you into quick action. But truly meaningful opportunities, the kind that align with your values and direction, don't usually disappear overnight. They have substance. They can withstand a little space. If something falls apart simply because you didn't respond immediately, it's worth asking whether it was stable to begin with. This doesn't mean you ignore deadlines or responsibilities. It means you recognize the difference between real urgency and manufactured urgency. And more importantly, you learn to recognize your own internal signals. When you're about to make a decision, check in with yourself. Is your body tense or relaxed? Is your breathing shallow or steady? Are your thoughts racing, or do they feel clear? These physical cues tell you a lot about the state you're in. And that state influences the quality of your decision. Making choices from a calm, centered place doesn't guarantee perfect outcomes. Nothing does. But it significantly increases the likelihood that your decisions will align with who you are and what you actually want. It also reduces the need for constant correction. Because they erase the hidden cost of reactive decisions, they often create cycles. You jump into something quickly. It doesn't feel right. You try to adjust, fix, or escape it. That leads to another rushed decision. And the cycle continues. Breaking that cycle doesn't require a dramatic life overhaul. It starts with small moments of awareness. The next time you feel that surge of urgency, when everything in you wants to act immediately, treat it as a signal, not a command. Pause. Give yourself permission to sit with the discomfort for a moment. It might feel unfamiliar at first, even unsettling. But that space is where better decisions begin. Think of it less like standing still and more like stabilizing yourself. Going back to the water analogy, when someone stops thrashing and starts to float, something interesting happens. Their body becomes more supported. Their movements become more controlled. They can see more clearly what's around them. From that position, they're far more likely to reach something that actually helps them. In life, it works the same way. When you stop reacting impulsively and allow yourself to settle, you create the conditions for better opportunities to become visible and for you to recognize them when they do. You don't have to chase everything. You don't have to grab at every possibility. You can choose. And that choice becomes more powerful when it's made from steadiness instead of fear. Over time, this approach builds something deeper than quick wins. It builds trust in yourself. You start to see that you can handle uncertainty without rushing to escape it. You learn that not every gap needs to be filled immediately. You realize that waiting doesn't mean losing. It often means positioning yourself better. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to experience a different kind of progress. Not the frantic, scattered kind that looks busy but feels exhausting, but a quieter, more intentional kind that feels aligned, even if it's slower. So before your next big decision, or even a small one that feels strangely urgent, try something simple. Pause. Step back just enough to let your mind and body reset. Then decide from that place. Not from pressure. Not from fear. Not from the need to fix everything at once. But from clarity. Because the direction of your life isn't just shaped by what you choose. It's shaped by the state you're in when you choose it.